2 years after being told not to drink their water, residents of Lawrence County are still concerned. Hundreds are pursuing litigation against the West Morgan East Lawrence Water Authority.
Others have filed lawsuits against the companies accused of polluting the water, and many say they feel abandoned by the state of Alabama.
WHNT News 19 investigative reporter Chelsea Brentzel is taking action in our special report, What's in the Water?
Flint, Michigan. Lead contaminates the water supply. More than a dozen government officials get arrested. The Michigan State Health Director faces charges for manslaughter. Charleston, West Virginia. A chemical spill poisons their water. The governor declares a state of emergency. Lawrence County, Alabama. Manufacturing chemicals are found in the water supplied to people's homes. No aid from the state. No criminal charges. Really, not much of anything.
How do you explain the public representatives not wanting to help their people? To me, that is genocide.
About 33,000 people live in this 700 square mile county. They're worried about their water supply. Well, actually, they're afraid it might kill them. Many of them, those who can afford it or can get donations, survive off bottled water.
It is awful to live in fear, not knowing whether you cook with it or drink it.
The Environmental Protection Agency lowered the guidance on the levels of perfluorinated compounds that would be safe for human consumption in May 2016. They issued a health advisory. The chemicals in question are linked to crippling health problems: cancer, ulcerative colitis, thyroid disease, and on and on. These perfluorinated compounds, in this case PFOA and PFOS, are used in manufacturing things like Teflon and Scotchgard. They produced the chemicals for decades at 3M, right here in Decatur. They pumped the leftovers straight into the Tennessee River. 3M announced it would stop making PFOA and PFOS in 2000. But the whole point of the chemicals is that they don't break down easily. When the EPA changed the levels deemed safe, the West Morgan East Lawrence Water Authority had to tell their customers,
do not drink our water.
They've since installed a carbon filtration system at the WMEL Water Authority. It's supposed to help, but it's not a permanent fix. The Water Authority needs a reverse osmosis system. WMEL was going to pay for the $25 million system with settlement money from its lawsuit against 3M and Daikin. Daikin recently settled for $4 million to pay for the current temporary system. The 3M suit is stuck in court. Meanwhile,
35.
Ernest Nance is stuck in his bed. The former Alabama Crimson Tide linebacker has a number of ailments, including kidney issues and skin lesions.
They don't know why my wounds won't heal. And I think it's because I'm here using the water to bathe. I'm drinking the water.
There's more sick people than there are healthy people.
And I think over half of the people has died from some kind of cancer.
Annie Hughes has lived in Lawrence County her entire life. She was recently diagnosed with bladder cancer. She believes the cancer is a result of years of drinking toxic water. Now, in other states, the people have their governments to stand up for them.
The waste from these chemicals were dumped.
In 2010, the Attorney General of Minnesota filed a lawsuit against 3M for PFOA and PFOS contamination. In February 2018, on the eve of the trial, 3M settled with the state of Minnesota for $850 million. In July 2018, the governor of Michigan wrote a letter to his attorney general urging him to sue 3M for contaminating their water with PFCs. Back in Alabama, the attorney general told us state environmental regulators haven't alerted him to any water quality issue in Lawrence County that would require action from his office. Earlier this year, the governor told us she'd consider getting involved with the issue later down the road. We haven't heard anything since. But here in Lawrence County, they're counting days, and they're counting their friends, their neighbors, and loved ones who've passed.
2 or 3 funerals a week, you know, 4 or 5 a month, you know what I mean? That's kind of like unusual, you know?
You can filter out the deadly chemicals if you have the money. But what do you do with the fear?
You know, one of the things about death, you know what I'm saying, I know we all have to go one day, but we don't want to rush it. And definitely don't want to rush it thinking about just drinking water. Come on now.
So do the politicians and public officials. The residents of Lawrence County have some questions for you.
Where have you been? And when are you coming?
They want to know, how long do they have to wait? Taking action, Chelsea Brentzel, WHNT, News 19.
We asked 3M for a comment. They haven't responded.
The state has an agreement with 3M to try and clean up chemicals at the plant site, but there is no state limit on how much of the chemicals the company can discharge from the plant into the Tennessee River.
Over the last 2 years, public officials and those running for office have told us they weren't aware of a water quality issue in Lawrence County. So last night, we spelled it out in a taking action investigation, and we're continuing to press public officials for a response.
The people of Lawrence County told me when I went out there, they said that our biggest fear is dying, and then our second biggest fear is that no one's listening. Are you listening?
No one should have to question whether they can drink water.
When I asked the AG's office if it had a reaction to our reporting or if the Attorney General watched our taking action investigation into Lawrence County's water issues, a spokesman said the office had no further comment. But you can rest assured we are still pushing state officials for real answers.
Governor, do you believe that companies that have been accused of polluting the Tennessee River and other waterways in Alabama should be held accountable?
Of course, and I know the company's working toward doing that.
Well, Alabama U.S. Senator Doug Jones is calling on state officials to investigate the water concerns in Morgan and Lawrence counties. Jones visited North Alabama last night to speak with the West Morgan East Lawrence Water Authority.
That meeting comes 5 weeks after WHNT News 19's taking action investigation into the water quality. And WHNT News 19 investigative reporter Chelsea Brentzel has been taking action for the people who get their water from the WMEL. And what about this meeting last night?
Well, Jerry and Christine, the meeting seems pretty significant considering it's the first time an elected official has sat down with WMEL Water Authority leaders since they asked for help last month. Now, 2 weeks ago, I spoke with Governor Kay Ivey and Attorney General Steve Marshall when they visited Huntsville. Both of them pledged to work with local officials on the water issue. But so far, there's no sign they've even scheduled a meeting. Alabama Senator Doug Jones did meet with them, and he says he will work to get WMEL managers a meeting with the Environmental Protection Agency. Candy, costumes, and community. As the people of Town Creek celebrated Halloween at the community center, a serious meeting about drinking water quality was brewing inside. The problem brought U.S. Senator Doug Jones to town.
If it concerns the folks here in this county, it concerns me.
Jones met with the West Morgan East Lawrence Water Authority managers and local mayors. The WMEL general manager laid out the struggles they face trying to siphon out toxic chemicals from the drinking water.
It's drinking water. If there's a problem, it's got to be fixed. It's got to be fixed fast.
Time isn't the only issue. It's also money. It will cost the Water Authority tens of millions of dollars to permanently solve the problem. They need a reverse osmosis system. WMEL is currently suing 3M, the company accused of dumping the chemicals in the Tennessee River, to pay for the advanced filtration system. Meanwhile, the state of Alabama isn't doing anything.
There is an arm of EPA in the state called ADEM, and they have a lot of power, and they can do a lot of things if they want to. And we can go from there. They just need to come up here.
The Alabama Department of Environmental Management has a permit with 3M. There is no limit on how much of the chemicals the company can pump into the river.
It's on our radar that we're looking at it. Now, I mean, I don't want people to think that they're being ignored by my office.
Senator Jones is the first elected official pledging to help solve the drinking water issues. If not for them, then for their children. The Alabama Department of Environmental Management says the drinking water is safe. The current PFOA and PFOS levels are below the EPA's health advisory. However, WMEL officials are concerned about the other contaminants in the Tennessee River that are getting into the drinking water. The Water Authority General Manager says he is trying to make sure his customers don't have to pay the cost for cleaning up their drinking water. The people of Lawrence County asked us to find answers after dangerous levels of manufacturing chemicals were found in their drinking water. Our quest to find those answers started with the local water authority. It took us to Montgomery, and now we find ourselves here, nearly 1,000 miles away in the state of Minnesota. When Minnesota found out it had toxic chemicals in their drinking water, they had two problems. First, they didn't know what they were dealing with. And second, They knew exactly who they were dealing with. The chemicals were dumped by one of Minnesota's largest employers, 3M. Minnesota is the birthplace of 3M. Almost everyone up here is either employed by the chemical manufacturing giant or is related to someone who works there. Even with 3M's shadow looming, the state of Minnesota went to work.
A big problem for the local communities was the concern that here's one of the big employers in our area being hit by a fairly massive investigation. But I'd say their biggest concern is their drinking water.
Ginny Yingling with the Minnesota Department of Health says it wasn't an easy task. Health officials researched the toxic chemicals and they created drinking water standards for them.
And everybody loves 3M, but everybody also knows that if this issue was caused by 3M, they need to be held accountable and they need to take care of it.
Mayor Myron Bailey says Cottage Grove considered suing 3M. The small city ultimately decided not to legally take on the corporate giant because city officials feared it would bankrupt Cottage Grove.
If you can get the state to be the one that really kind of leads the charge, that's what I would recommend, and hold your state leaders accountable.
In 2010, it was the state of Minnesota that decided to take on the $120 billion company.
The waste from these chemicals were dumped.
The Attorney General filed a lawsuit against 3M for contaminating their water with chemicals. Hours before the trial was set to begin, 3M settled with the state for $850 million.
The settlement will help solve a problem for Minnesota.
That money will go to pay for the filtration system that will replace Cottage Grove's current carbon system. Minnesota officials say it's not a permanent solution. That non-permanent solution in Minnesota is the system the people are relying on right now in Lawrence County, Alabama. As for finding the money to replace it, Attorney General Steve Marshall admitted to WHNT News 19 last month it is possible for the state to sue 3M under public nuisance law. But the AG hasn't committed to actually filing a lawsuit. Right now, the nonprofit West Morgan East Lawrence Water Authority is stuck suing 3M all on its own. Residents in Lawrence County are begging Alabama officials to get involved, to care, to do anything with the issue.
Why will you not come to Lawrence County? Why will you not investigate to find out the truth? Talk to the people, talk to the communities.
I want them to know and at least come here to see the people that are suffering and just walk in my shoes just for one day.
Alabama's inaction resonates all the way up to Cottage Grove, Minnesota.
The governor and the attorney general of them answer to the state that you live in. So the fact is, if it's important, we need to get it fixed, you need to get it fixed. Hold them accountable. Don't let them just push it under the rug, because it's not going to go away.
Like the winter snow here in Minnesota, the problems in Lawrence County aren't going away anytime soon. State officials up here did what they needed to do to protect their people. Alabama, your people are counting on you. In St. Paul, Chelsea Brentzel, WHNT News 19.
Investigative reporter Chelsea Brentzel has been working on this developing story for months. She joins us now in the newsroom with details on it. Chelsea.
Sources tell me the West Morgan East Lawrence Water Authority has accepted a settlement offer from 3M, but we don't know how much the chemical manufacturing giant will pay the Water Authority to clean up the drinking water. Why do you think we are where we are today?
You, Brenda Hampton, other people that are like agitators, fighting and pushing, never giving up.
Lawrence County drinking water activists haven't had many reasons to smile in recent years, but that's starting to change. People who live here can envision a future where they aren't afraid of what's on tap.
Oh, I'm so excited. I'm so glad.
The people in Lawrence County are glad that this problem is finna go away.
It's been years since they've seen any relief, felt any relief. The West Morgan East Lawrence Water Authority shocked customers when they issued a do not drink advisory in 2016 because of toxic manufacturing chemicals in the drinking water. Now, the Water Authority tried addressing the problem by suing 3M and installing a temporary carbon filtration system, but they wanted 3M to pay for a permanent water treatment solution.
A nonprofit fighting against a $120 billion company. It's like David fighting against Goliath.
And no matter how many times you've read the Bible, it's hard to imagine David beating Goliath when you picture them facing each other on the battlefield.
I would venture to say most people didn't think this would ever happen.
But last month, after a 3.5-year fight, 3M agreed to pay $35 million to settle the lawsuit. $28.5 million of that check will go to build a new advanced filtration system. The Water Authority says it won't cost customers any additional money.
It takes a big burden off the people here in Lawrence County.
Right now, the West Morgan East Lawrence Water Authority treats its drinking water over here. All water that comes out of the plant currently meets state and federal regulations. But by the end of 2020, a new system, a reverse osmosis, will stand right over here. And WMEL managers say that's when they'll be able to bring customers water of this quality.
The reverse osmosis process is used by all of your major bottled water companies, and they basically start off by buying water from a treatment plant such as ours, and then they run it through a reverse osmosis process, bottle it, and sell it to stores. We'll actually bring that process straight to your house.
WMEL Assistant General Manager Janice Slater says the Water Authority has been researching the reverse osmosis system for years. They've been trying to find a way to build the treatment plant without passing the buck to customers every month like originally planned.
This is such a great deal for us in the community because now we don't have to put that line item on. People don't have to pay that $9 to get the reverse osmosis.
The Environmental Protection Agency says the reverse osmosis is the most effective method for removing the chemicals in question from drinking water. The Water Authority underwent a pilot process with the system in 2018.
Only putting the pure water through, whereas it is taking all of the your viruses, all of these things that are in the water, it takes it to a waste stream.
New federal regulations appear to be on the horizon for several types of perfluorinated chemicals, like the ones found in the WMEL drinking water. The Water Authority says the reverse osmosis system will clean their water so well it won't be a problem.
We've tested it against everything that's in the river now, and it has come back non-detect on everything.
The Water Authority is aiming to break ground on the treatment plant by October of this year. Officials intend to have the reverse osmosis online by December 2020. That's when they say Lawrence County will be drinking some of the cleanest water in the country.
We're going to be able to offer bottled water at people's taps and a sense of security that the water they're drinking is safe.
The people here called it David versus Goliath, and as you well know, David had help. Residents believe they did too.
We don't have resources as individuals to fight them individually. We have to have help. And as a spiritual person, I believe God is that help.
In Lawrence County, Chelsea Brentzel, WHNT News 19.